Hi, I'm Rich.
And I'm Tina.
If there's one thing we've learned in over 20 years of marriage,
It's that some days you'll feel like killing your husband.
and some days you'll feel like killing your wife.
Welcome to Love, Marry, Kill.
Hey, Tina.
Hey, Rich.
How are you today?
I am fine. I accidentally heard our podcast the other day, just the opening, and I was like, I hate that person.
How did you accidentally hear it?
Sometimes you just go on like YouTube or something just, to look at something and then it starts and I'm like, oh, who is that annoying person? So my apologies.
That was when you heard my voice, I'm assuming.
Oh, no, you sound lovely.
I'm the same way. I listen to our podcast more than you because I do some of the editing. Our son does most of it now, but I do a little bit. And so I have to listen to it at times. And I hate hearing my own voice. I love hearing yours, though. It makes me smile. Yeah.
I know we all have that thing,
Yeah.
but opposite. I think you have a really nice voice. I don't know why you would hate it.
Yeah. I think everyone just doesn't like their own voice.
Yeah.
So there's a very special day coming up.
No, it's today.
Well, for most people who will be listening to this on Monday, it will be today. And that is...
It will be the birthday of at least 3 bad people we've covered.
and one very good person who is talking on our podcast right now, you.
Yep, thanks.
I know you don't like to be...
I sure don't.
The
Let's
center
move
of
on.
attention. You don't like to have
Segment
people...
over. Do you have presents? Do you have cake?
On your birthday, maybe I will. Maybe.
Well, you're telling people it's my birthday. You have no gifts for me.
I will.
right.
Thank
you so much.
Do what we can to make it special.
Let's move on.
Well, let's talk about cheesecake first.
Okay.
So for me, it's cherry chip cake is my thing. And for you, you don't get to eat cheesecake because nobody else in our family...
get to eat it.
You're not allowed. Nobody else in our family really likes it. But on your birthday, of course, you get what you want. So you want...
Not always.
You should get what you want. And you want some cheesecake.
Not always. Sometimes there's a lot of desserts that I like that you don't. One of them is carrot cake. I love carrot cake.
So what would you like for this birthday?
I would like us not to talk about my birthday on the podcast.
It really makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it?
It sure does.
All right,
It's weird because I'm not a quiet person, but I don't like to talk about myself.
You do not like to be the center of attention.
I do not like to be the center of attention. I like to sit in the corner and make devastatingly witty comments every now and then. That's who I am.
Well, you're very good at that. So.
I appreciate it, though. I appreciate the effort.
All right, we can move on now.
So did you make me cheesecake today?
Not yet, but I think I'm going to go get you a piece of cheesecake.
Yeah, I would prefer,
Yeah,
no offense, but I would prefer that.
Yeah, I figured that.
The Cheesecake Factory does make, in my opinion, the best cheesecake.
Yeah, I will make a road trip for you.
You're awful sweet. Thank you. 2026 has just begun, and we have not talked about Love, Marry, Kill's contract negotiations and what it's going to take to keep me here on the podcast.
Really?
I have had other offers.
Oh, that's right. You did have another offer, didn't
That's
you?
right, yeah.
All right, well,
So-
lay it on me. Well, I think we should talk about this off air, to be honest with you. I don't think we should air your...
I need to hold you accountable, sir. 'Cause if we don't talk about it on air, you
All
will
right.
not abide by my new
give me your
rules.
demands and I will consider them off the air.
Okay. Well, one is I would like to start every episode with a frosty, crisp Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke.
Okay, on ice.
On ice, yeah.
From, like, the gas
from,
station.
like, the gas station. Because
right.
I'm an elite princess.
Yes.
I will
I'll take that under
limit
advisement.
sports conversations to 15 seconds or less every episode.
15 seconds. That's
I
not
think
a
the
lot.
listeners would approve of
Well,
that.
actually, the Bears are doing well, so I guess I could abide by that for the next few weeks.
Oh, that's
least.
another funny story. I have to tell the listeners at the end of the episode. Okay. We don't have enough. We have to wrap this up pretty quickly, even though I have a whole list of demands that I will present to you at a later date. But
Okay.
let's see, my name always needs to come first. Oh, you should have to like pull my chair out for me. And no vegetables, no snacks as vegetables, which I'm really surprised you didn't do yesterday. But we'll talk more about it later and we'll circle back.
Wow. Okay.
All
I had no
right.
idea you had all these things that you were like keeping bottled up that you really wanted to change. But okay,
Yeah, I
I'll
sure do.
take it under consideration.
Okay, did you bring me a snack though?
I did, and
Are there
there are
vegetables
no
in it?
vegetables.
That's good.
No, so this, I did actually make you an authentic South African snack. It's
Yay.
called Malva pudding. And What? Does that not sound good to
I
you?
don't know.
I think it looks really interesting.
It smells really good.
But
it was in the you cooked it.
It's almost
right?
more like a cake than a pudding. So the cake, it's not that different from. I think it looks like a very moist kind of cake. Like there's basically sugar, eggs, flour, butter, and then there's like a sauce you pour over it after it comes out of the oven. And the sauce has like cream and sugar and butter, and
that sounds delicious.
Soaks into it. So the only thing that's a little odd in it is apricot jam, but there's really only like a tablespoon of apricot jam.
I really love apricot jam in South Africa.
Yeah. So should we give it a try?
No, I'm good. I'll just look at it.
Let's give it a try. What did you think about the Malva pudding?
I thought it was delicious.
I liked it too. It's really good.
Tastes like Kentucky butter cake a little bit.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, maybe the sauce is similar.
Yeah, just a very moist cake, sweet, a little vanilla flavor in there. And
delicious. Thank you so much. I would rate that like a 9.6 out of 10.
I would rate it a 9.5 out of 10. I will post the recipe in our show notes and let us know if you try it.
I had committed to not eating sugar other than my birthday in the month of January. So
you have to make an exception.
Well, I can't have it both ways because I already told you I didn't want vegetables. So, but yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you. Let's dive back into the story of Reeva Steenkamp and Oscar Pistorius. Would you like to give us a quick recap of part one?
Sure would. In part one, we talked about Oscar's childhood. Born with a rare condition called fibular hemimelia, his parents made the heart-wrenching decision to have both his legs amputated below the knee when he was just a baby. But that turned out to be the best thing for him. He had incredible determination, driven to show everyone that he was a normal boy. His father left the family when he was young, and his mother died when he was just 15. At age 16, Oscar took up running and very quickly became the greatest Paralympic sprinter ever. He even competed in the London Olympic Games in 2012, overcoming many obstacles to get there. Despite his outward golden boy image, he struggled with interpersonal relationships. He developed a pattern with women he dated, starting out insecure and afraid of being ridiculed, then quickly grew attached and dependent. He was controlling and prone to rapid mood swings, going from Mr. Nice Guy to angry and rage-filled at the drop of a hat, according to Samantha Taylor, his last serious relationship before meeting Reeva Steenkamp. When we ended part one, it was November 4th, 2012. Samantha had been trying to make things work with Oscar, but decided that she'd had enough. She told Oscar that she wasn't going to accompany him to the Red Carpet Sports Awards ceremony that evening.
Before we get back to the story, I was thinking about this and I wanted to ask you the choice that his parents had to make when he was just a baby and they found out that his legs were deformed and they had different doctors advising them of different things. Yeah. What do you think you would do if you put yourself in that situation? Like today, I think we have Oscar Pistorius as an example of what probably the best thing to do is, but they didn't have that at the time. It must have been a really, really difficult decision for them.
His legs were so severely deformed that they were unusable, right? And he would have never been able to walk on them, no matter how many surgeries he would have had. So I think they made the right decision. I think that I would have made the same decision.
Yeah, I think so too, but I can't imagine how hard that must have been.
Were Samantha and Oscar done?
That depends on who you ask. I think I heard an interview with her later where she said, yes, she was done. But then I've heard other interviews where she was supposedly jealous that he went out with Reeva, that he was cheating on her. So I'm not sure, these things are always, depends on who you ask and when you ask it.
Right.
Coincidentally, the very same day that Samantha told Oscar she wouldn't accompany him to the sports awards ceremony, Oscar met Reeva Steenkamp. They were introduced by a mutual friend, an affluent businessman who owned several luxury car dealerships in South Africa. From the moment they met, Oscar was captivated. Reeva was strikingly beautiful, but it was her confidence that stood out most. She was 3 years older than Oscar, and he immediately sensed that she was more mature, more grounded and worldly than the women he had dated before. Now, if you remember, Samantha Taylor was 17 when he started dating her a year and a half earlier. So to go from someone 6 years younger than him or 7 years younger than him to someone 3 years older must have had quite an impact on him.
Yeah, definitely.
Reeva was drawn to Oscar as well. He was undeniably handsome with an unmistakable star quality. But beneath that public image, she saw something softer, a man who was shy, polite, almost old-fashioned in his manners, with a gentle voice that didn't match the bravado that people associated with elite athletes. Oscar needed a date for the evening's events, the sports awards he was scheduled to attend. On impulse, he asked Reeva if she would go with him. She didn't hesitate. She said yes. Reeva knew Oscar was well known, but she didn't fully grasp the scale of his fame until later that night, standing beside him on the red carpet as cameras flashed and reporters crowded in. It was a different world, one that she had just stepped into.
I am shocked that she said yes, because most women would be like, well, that's a black tie event. What do I,
Yeah. Well, she was a model. I mean, she was a fairly successful model. So I think
a lot of nice dresses in her
yeah.
wardrobe.
And I think she was somewhat used to public attention and, she was known, but obviously not on the scale that Oscar was known. Here's a short clip of Reeva speaking with a reporter that evening, that first evening they met and the first date that they had. It's a little bit hard to hear her just because she was losing her voice at the time.
Hi, I'm Oscar's date tonight. He needed a date at the last minute, so it's like, Reeva, just throw your stuff together and come and be my date. So it's funny, hey? So I don't know how that worked out. Just I'm excited just to enjoy the evening, the entertainment, just everything as a whole. Just a fun night out, something different, not a club, nothing boring. It's exciting. Oscar's a very, very sexy boy, but he doesn't do it in an arrogant, obnoxious way. He does it in a very classy, understated. He always has a good, simple suit on. Yeah, it's a gentleman.
I think it's interesting hearing just, audio from someone's first date. If we could go back to our first date and hear audio, that would be probably really cringy, actually, but it would be interesting to hear.
Why would it be cringy to hear audio from our first date?
It just would be. I'm quite certain of that.
Well, we didn't really have a first date, but we had our first meeting when we met at church?
Yes.
At our friend's wedding? Yeah.
Yes, which we have talked about in the past. I should mention about that clip that I cut out the reporter's questions because you couldn't really hear them. So when she was talking about Oscar being a sexy boy, that was in response to a reporter asking her, a question along those lines.
So she, I'm sure, knew of Oscar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That night, after the event ended and the attention faded, Oscar and Reeva stayed up talking until nearly 3 a.m. It felt effortless, unrushed, like the beginning of something important. Neither of them could have known how quickly and how completely their lives were about to become intertwined.
Reeva Steenkamp was born in August 1983 in Cape Town, though her family moved to Port Elizabeth when she was still young. Her father, Barry Steenkamp, worked as a racehorse trainer. Her mother, June, and her father each had a child from their previous marriage, and they believed their family was complete until June learned she was pregnant with Reeva. From the moment she was born, they treated her like a princess. The family was poor. The home they lived in was modest, barely an improvement over the houses that black families were forced to live in during the apartheid era. But it was a loving household, and Reeva grew up feeling supported and adored. She was a happy child who did well in school. Teachers remembered her as easygoing and kind, someone who looked out for others and rarely caused trouble. As a teenager, Reeva entered the Miss Port Elizabeth pageant and made it to the finals, an early hint of the poise and confidence she carried naturally. After finishing school, Reeva set her sights on studying law. Her parents couldn't afford university tuition, but she refused to give up. She pushed herself academically and earned a scholarship to attend Nelson Mandela University, where she enrolled in a Bachelor of Law program, the foundational qualification required to practice law in South Africa. Horses were a constant presence in Reeva's life. Growing up around her father's work, she loved riding from an early age. She often woke before dawn to accompany him to the track, helping exercise the horses he trained. It was there she met a jockey named Wayne Agrella, and the two would date for 6 years. While in law school, Reeva suffered a serious accident. She fell from a horse and crushed 2 vertebrae in her spine. She spent 6 weeks in a hospital bed while doctors debated whether she would ever walk again. And she did. Horses scare me so much. They're so big, and that fall from...
Yeah, they're amazing, but yes, a little scary.
Reeva made a full recovery, though, but the accident changed her outlook. She stopped riding horses, ended her long-term relationship, and began rethinking what she wanted from life. After finishing her law degree, she decided to pursue modeling. Her parents were concerned, but Reeva reassured them it was temporary. Law, she promised, would still be there later.
I know I didn't know a lot about Reeva Steenkamp before researching this case, but everyone thinks of her as a model and a TV star, but the fact that she really, she had her law degree, she was able to practice law and was planning on doing that at some point. I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't really realize.
Yeah. At 22, degree in hand, she moved to Johannesburg to try to make it as a model. Her first major break came quickly. She was selected as the white representative for Avon, South Africa, part of a broader racially representative program. Though she was slightly shorter than the typical runway model, just 5'7", she signed with ICE Modeling Agency and steadily picked up work. The career-defining breakthrough she hoped for hadn't yet arrived, but she was earning enough money to support herself, and she even sent money home to help her parents. Reeva built a busy social life in Johannesburg. She loved dancing, she spent time with close friends, and from 2008 to 2012 dated a businessman named Warren Lahoud. In October 2008, while visiting her parents in Port Elizabeth, Reeva experienced a terrifying home invasion. She and her mother were alone when intruders ripped burglar bars from a window and stormed inside. The two locked themselves in a bedroom, frozen in fear as the house was ransacked. The incident shook them both deeply, and each later sought counseling. By 2010, Reeva's modeling career began to gain momentum. She appeared in advertisements for Toyota, Pin Pop Lollipops, Cardinal Beer, and Hollywood Chewing Gum. Then came a major milestone. In 2011, Reeva was chosen for the cover of FHM South Africa's December issue, a career breakthrough that brought her national attention. In mid-2012, another opportunity followed. Reeva was cast on a South African reality television series called Tropica Island of Treasure. The show featured a mix of celebrities and everyday contestants competing in a luxury island setting for a grand prize of 1 million rand, roughly $60,000 US. Her season was filmed in Jamaica. The first episode aired just 2 days after Reeva's death. That's devastating.
Yeah,
that must have
very
been so
sad.
hard for people to watch that.
Yeah.
The show closed with Reeva speaking about her philosophy, about competition, integrity, and staying true to herself.
You literally fall in love with Jamaica. You fall in love with being in love with love. It's just one love everywhere. I'm going home with sort of a sweet taste in my mouth. I don't have any regrets. I don't have any bitterness. I take home with me so many amazing memories and things that are in here and that are in here that I'll treasure forever. I think the way that you go out, not just your journey in life, but the way that you go out and you make your exit is so important. You either made an impact in a positive way or a negative way, but just maintain integrity and maintain class and just always be true to yourself. And I'm gonna miss you all so much, and I love you very, very much.
That last part in the context of, airing that 2 days after her death just seems so
gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
It was a reflection of who Reeva had always been, driven, resilient, and still searching for what came next. It didn't take long for Oscar Pistorius to decide that Reeva Steenkamp was the one. After their first night together, he told friends he had no doubts. This was the woman he wanted to marry, the woman he wanted to have children with. Reeva leaned into his world. She took an interest in the things Oscar cared about the most. She went to the track with him while he trained and even took up running herself. She shared his love of fast cars. She didn't move in with him, but she spent a great deal of time at his home, sometimes staying there even when Oscar was out of town. But within a couple of months, familiar patterns began to reemerge. Oscar wanted to be with Reeva constantly. When they weren't together, he flooded her phone with messages. At first, she was unsettled. She confided to friends that she had mixed feelings about his intensity, that his attention sometimes felt less like affection and more like pressure. Reeva was also now firmly in the public eye. It was visibility she had long wanted for her career, but now it came with added scrutiny and stress. 2 weeks before her death, the strain surfaced in a long text exchange between them. It followed an engagement party for a mutual friend, an evening that had clearly gone badly. Reeva initiated the conversation, sending Oscar a message that, while lengthy, would later be seen as very revealing.
This first text from Reeva is really, really long, but I thought it was important to read the whole thing because it does give you a glimpse into the dynamics that were shaping up in their relationship.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure why I'm sitting down to type you a message first, but perhaps it says a lot about what's going on here. Today was one of my best friend's engagements, and I wanted to stay longer. I was enjoying myself, but it's over now. You have picked on me incessantly since you got back from Cape Town, and I understand that you are sick, but it's nasty. Yesterday wasn't nice for either of us, but we managed to pull through and communicate well enough to show our care for each other is greater than the drama that attacked us. I was not flirting with anyone today. I feel sick that you suggested that and that you made a scene at the table and made us leave early. I'm terribly disappointed in how the day ended and how you left me. We are living in a double-standard relationship where you can be mad about how I deal with stuff when you are very quick to act cold and offish when we're unhappy. Every 5 seconds, I hear how you dated another chick. You really have dated a lot of people, yet you get upset if I mention one funny story with a long-term boyfriend. I do everything to make you happy and to not say anything to rock the boat with you. You do everything to throw tantrums in front of people. I have been upset by you for 2 days now. I'm so upset I left Darren's party early. So upset. I can't get that day back. I'm scared of you sometimes, and how you snap at me, and how you will react to me. You make me happy 90% of the time, and I think we are amazing together, but I am not some other bitch you may know trying to kill your vibe. I am the girl who let go with you, even when I was scared out of my mind to. I'm the girl who fell in love with you and wanted to tell you this weekend, but I'm also the girl that gets sidestepped when you are in a shit mood. When I feel you think you have me, so why try anymore? I get snapped at and told my accents and voices are annoying. I touch your neck to show you I care. You tell me to stop. Stop chewing gum. Do this. Don't do that. You don't want to hear stuff. You cut me off. Your endorsements, your reputation, your impression of something innocent blown out of proportion and fucked up a special day for me. I'm sorry if you truly felt I was hitting on my friend Sam's husband, and I'm sorry that you think that little of me. From the outside, it looks like we are a struggle, and maybe that's what we are. I just want to love and be loved, be happy, and make someone happy. So happy. Maybe we can't do that for each other, because right now I know you aren't happy, and I am certainly very unhappy and sad.
Oscar replied, I want to talk to you. I want to sort this out. I don't want to have anything less than amazing for you and I. I'm sorry for the things I say without thinking and for taking offense to some of your actions. The fact that I'm tired and sick isn't an excuse. I'm sorry I wanted to go, but I was hungry and upset, and although you knew it, it wasn't like you came to chat to me when I left the table. I was upset when I left you because I thought you were coming to me. I'm sorry I asked you to stop touching my neck yesterday. I know you were just trying to show me love. I had a mad headache and should have just spoken to you softly. I'm sorry. I think that's a really interesting exchange. To me, it shows Reeva was definitely more mature. Like, it's a really long message to send over text, but the way she worded things, I thought was very in a mature way. And
was it mature, or was she trying to evade his wrath? She was careful in her words not to blame him outright.
Yeah, maybe.
She was kind of making excuses, like, I know you didn't feel well, and
yeah, I thought she was just trying to have a more of a civil conversation about it, and raise something up that was obviously bothering her and try to do it in a respectful way. But he didn't. His reply was sort of, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I had a headache, or I was hungry," so he was kind of making excuses.
After Reeva's death, prosecutors would return to this exchange repeatedly. They argued that the messages showed a woman who was increasingly unhappy and potentially preparing to leave the relationship. And as domestic violence experts often note, women are statistically at greatest risk when they attempt to end a relationship. Do you know how long this was into their relationship?
It was only two to 3 months. I think, they only dated for 3.5 months total before she was killed.
Okay, I was thinking of his previous relationship.
And this was, I think, 2 weeks before she was shot.
Oh. Prosecutors highlighted one line in particular, I'm scared of you sometimes, and how you snap at me. At the same time, they acknowledged an important counterpoint. Outside of exchanges like this one, the overwhelming majority of Oscar and Reeva's text messages were affectionate, playful, loving, and warm. Like many relationships, theirs existed in contradictions, and those contradictions would soon be examined under the harshest possible light.
Even though the vast majority of their text messages were positive and affectionate, I think something like this only 2 to 3 months into their relationship. It's such a red flag. I mean, 2 to 3 months, you're still in that honeymoon phase. But the fact that they're already having, serious issues where he's saying you're flirting with another man at a party and getting upset with her about things like that's not a good sign.
No, it is definitely a huge red flag. We'll be back after a break.
While Oscar was dating Reeva, he became involved in 2 separate controversies, neither directly related to their relationship, that he fought desperately to keep out of the public eye. The first centered on Quentin Vanderburg, the wealthy businessman Oscar believed had crossed a line with his former girlfriend Samantha Taylor. If you recall, when Oscar was at the Paralympic Games in the summer of 2012, she went to Dubai with this Quentin Vanderburg. In her mind, she and Oscar were broken up. In his mind, she was cheating on him.
That's right.
Back in October, while Oscar and Samantha were making one final attempt to repair their relationship, Oscar encountered Vanderburg at a racetrack. Words were exchanged. Oscar later downplayed the confrontation, saying he merely told Vanderburg that he didn't respect what he had done, taking his girlfriend on a trip while Oscar was away competing. Other witnesses, though, described something far more volatile. According to those accounts, Oscar was shouting and issuing threats, at one point allegedly telling Vanderburg he would break his legs. Vanderburg was a dangerous person to threaten. He was connected to men with reputations that were, at best, unsettling. One was a man named Mark Batchelor, a former professional soccer player. Years later, in 2019, Batchelor would be murdered, shot multiple times through the windshield of his car in what appeared to be a professional hit. Another associate was Mikey Schultz, a security guard, former boxer, and self-confessed hitman. In December, Oscar was assaulted at a nightclub in Johannesburg and required stitches to the back of his head. While he never publicly identified his attacker, many assumed it was Batchelor, Schultz, or someone connected to them. When a journalist later learned of the incident and contacted Oscar for comment, Pistorius was frantic. "Please don't write this," he pleaded. "It could ruin me." The reporter held the story. It wouldn't be published until after Reeva's death.
Well, that is crazy that journalist would hold the story for Oscar.
Yeah, I think that wasn't the only example of that happening. I think people really, he had this golden boy image and nobody wanted to tarnish it.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. The second incident in January involved Oscar's relationship with firearms. He was dining at an upscale restaurant with friends when one of them mentioned he had recently purchased a new Glock pistol. Oscar asked to see it. Knowing that Oscar was experienced with guns, the friend passed it to him under the table, explicitly warning him that it was loaded. Moments later, the gun discharged. A bullet struck the floor and ricocheted through the restaurant. Miraculously, no one was seriously injured. Oscar immediately shifted into damage control mode. He asked the friend if he would take responsibility and say that he had been holding the gun when it went off in order to shield Oscar from negative publicity. The friend agreed. Taken individually, each incident might have seemed isolated, but together they paint a troubling picture. A man under pressure, increasingly volatile, reckless with weapons, and terrified of what public scrutiny might reveal. And all of it was unfolding just weeks before Valentine's Day 2013. On February 7th, 2013, just a week before Valentine's Day, Oscar Pistorius met with his agent to review the commercial opportunities that were flooding in after his Olympic appearance. The mood was celebratory. His agent was practically giddy. "You're going to make stupid money," he told Oscar. "Stupid money." Together, they reviewed and signed a stack of endorsement contracts. Some were extensions of existing deals with Nike, Oakley Sunglasses, and Osur, the maker of Oscar's cheetah blades. Another deal from an unnamed US-based company was even larger, worth nearly 3 times what Nike was paying him. Oscar's earning power had never been higher. During the meeting, he spoke casually to his agent about his personal life. He told him that he and Reeva were planning trips later that year to Italy and Rio de Janeiro. He said they were both excited. It sounded like the future was opening up, but 1 week later, Reeva Steenkamp would be dead. Oscar Pistorius would lose every sponsorship he had just signed, and would go on to spend his entire fortune on legal fees. In the space of 7 days, the life that he had been building vanished. What happened in the early hours of February 14th, 2013, ultimately depends on whether you believe Oscar Pistorius' account or the version later advanced by prosecutors. What is undisputed is this. Just after 3 a.m., Oscar fired 4 shots through a closed door leading into a small toilet room, part of a larger bathroom in his home at the Silverwoods estate. 3 of the bullets struck Reeva Steenkamp. 1 hit her hip, shattering the bone. Another struck her arm. A third entered her head. The ammunition Oscar used was hollow point, or dum-dum bullets, designed to expand on impact rather than pass through a body. The effect was catastrophic, making Reeva's injuries far more severe. After the shooting, Oscar broke through the locked bathroom door with a cricket bat. Inside, he found Reeva collapsed on the floor, her body crumpled, her face resting against the toilet. At 3:19 a.m., Oscar called his neighbor and friend, Johan Stander, who also managed the Silverwoods estate. The call lasted just 24 seconds. "Johan, please come to my house," Oscar cried. "I shot Reeva. I thought she was an intruder. Please come quick." Oscar then called emergency services and alerted estate security. He lifted Reeva's body and carried her out of the bathroom, down the marble staircase toward the main floor. About halfway down the stairs, a security guard arrived. Moments later, Johan Stander entered the house with his adult daughter. Oscar laid Reeva on a rug in the sitting room near the front door. Oscar, Stander, and his daughter tried desperately to stop the bleeding with towels. It was already hopeless. Shortly after, a doctor named Johan Stipp arrived. Stipp lived roughly 100 yards away and had been awakened by the gunshots. When he asked what had happened, Oscar sobbed, "I shot her. I thought she was a burglar. I shot her." Stipp performed a brief examination. It was immediately clear to him that Reeva could not be saved. At 3:43 a.m., an ambulance arrived. Reeva Steenkamp was pronounced dead at the scene. Overcome with grief, Oscar went upstairs and called his friend Justin, the man who had introduced him to Reeva just 3.5 months earlier. "There's been a terrible accident," Oscar said. I shot Reeva. It was an accident." Justin asked how badly she was hurt. "I've killed her," Oscar cried. "I've killed my Baba. God, take me away." Police soon arrived. Hilton Botha, the lead detective, took control of the crime scene and ordered extensive photographs of the house, the bathroom, and of Oscar himself, still wearing blood-soaked basketball shorts. Oscar was transported to a hospital for evaluation. Investigators collected samples from under his fingernails, examined his body for scratches or bruises, and tested his blood and urine. The results showed no signs of a struggle, no alcohol, no drugs. From there, Oscar was taken to a nearby police station where he was met by his attorney, who instructed police that his client would not be answering questions. Oscar Pistorius spent that night in a jail cell, sleeping on a blanket laid over a concrete floor. The next morning, he appeared before a magistrate and was formally charged with premeditated murder. A bail hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, February 19th. The story of what happened inside that house and why was only beginning.
You said that Oscar called his friend Johan first and then called emergency services.
Yeah.
Why did he not call emergency services first?
I don't know. It's a good question. I know the friend that he called was a neighbor that was very close, and he also managed the gated community. So it could be
a
that
medical professional?
No, he wasn't a medical professional, but I think in South Africa, when you live in like a gated community like that, a lot of the security, the services are provided within the community. So he may have just thought the guy that he called was the manager of the community. So he may have thought, I'm going to call him first. I don't know, though. That's just speculation.
Although Oscar's full explanation of what he said happened that night would not be formally presented until his bail hearing, let's cover that now. According to Pistorius, the evening began quietly. Around 10 p.m., he and Reeva were preparing for bed. Reeva was doing yoga in the bedroom while Oscar lay in bed watching television, his prosthetic legs already removed for the night. Once Reeva finished her yoga, she joined him in bed. Oscar said they fell asleep quickly. In the early hours of the morning, Oscar claimed he woke up and remembered that he had left 2 fans outside on the balcony. He disliked sleeping with air conditioning on, saying it interfered with his breathing, so he often used fans to pull fresh air into the room. He got up on his stumps, went onto the balcony, moved the fans, and closed the sliding door. Back inside the bedroom, he draped a pair of jeans over the stereo to block its LED lights. He said he was extremely sensitive to light when trying to sleep. The bedroom, he said, was now pitch black. At that point, Oscar claimed he heard a noise coming from the bathroom down the hall. He said he heard the bathroom window slide open. A window he knew was prone to squeaking, followed by movement inside the bathroom. He described an immediate surge of terror. There were no burglar bars on the bathroom window, and Oscar knew that contractors who had been working on the house had left ladders outside. He said his fear of intruders and violent crime ran deep, rooted in both his upbringing and his mother's own anxieties about home invasions. Oscar said he grabbed his 9mm pistol from beneath his bed. Still on his stumps and still in complete darkness, he left the bedroom and told Reeva, whom he believed was still in bed, to phone the police. As he moved down the hallway, he shouted at the unseen presence in the bathroom, "Get out! Get out of my fucking house!" Approaching the bathroom cautiously, Oscar said he saw that the window was indeed open, confirming in his mind that someone had broken in. The door to the small toilet cubicle inside the bathroom was closed, and he assumed the intruder had taken refuge there. From the hallway, he fired 4 shots through the closed door. He then retreated back towards the bedroom. It was only then, Oscar said, that he realized Reeva was not in bed, and only then, he claimed, did it slowly begin to dawn on him what had happened.
We will, of course, examine Oscar's story in detail when we get to the trial, but what is your first reaction to hearing his explanation of what happened?
I mean, I remember hearing when this happened, and I don't think I ever quite believed his story. What do you think?
I'm in a little different situation because I've done the entire research and I've learned what happened in the trial and everything like that. So I don't want to give too much of an opinion, but I agree the first time I heard the story, I thought that seems really unlikely.
Right. It was widely known that Oscar Pistorius lived in fear of crime. He resided in Silver Woods Estate, a high-security complex surrounded by electrified 12-foot perimeter walls, standard for affluent neighborhoods in South Africa. The estate was protected by surveillance cameras, underground motion sensors that could summon armed response teams, and an exhaustive entry process. Residents had to scan their fingerprints to gain access. Visitors were required to present identification and be cleared before entry. Uniformed guards patrolled constantly. Even by those standards, Oscar went further. He installed his own home alarm system. He kept a gun under his bed and both a cricket bat and a baseball bat behind his bedroom door. He carried a firearm almost everywhere. When driving, he often believed that he was being followed. At night, he parked only in well-lit areas. In restaurants, he checked exits and insisted on sitting with his back to the wall. If he heard an unexpected noise, a car backfiring, a sudden bang, he was known to reach instinctively for his gun. Oscar also struggled to sleep. He would lie awake for hours listening for sounds. On one occasion, he heard what he believed was an intruder, grabbed his firearm, and rushed out to confront them, only to discover it was a friend staying overnight, up getting a glass of water. On another occasion, while watching a movie at a friend's house, he dozed off. The sound of gunfire in the film jolted him awake, and he bolted from the room in a panic. Oscar's fear, while extreme, did not exist in a vacuum. In 2013, South Africa ranked among the most violent countries in the world, averaging roughly 45 murders a day. For many South Africans, constant vigilance was not paranoia, it was survival. Home invasions, burglaries, and smash-and-grab robberies were routine. The private security industry reflected that reality. More than 400,000 people were employed in private security, more than double the number of official police officers nationwide. Crime in South Africa was deeply tied to its economic and social divides. The majority of South Africans live in poverty and inequality. Against that backdrop, many South Africans found it easier to believe Oscar's claim that he had fired in panic, mistaking his girlfriend for an intruder. But there was another reality that could not be ignored. South Africa was the global epicenter of violence against women. At the time, statistics showed that a woman or girl was raped approximately every 3 minutes. Holy cow. And that a woman was killed by her male partner every 8 hours. Less than 2 weeks before Reeva's death, the country had been shaken by the brutal rape and murder of Anene Boyson, a 17-year-old girl who was gang-raped, mutilated, and left to die at a construction site near a bar where she'd been socializing with friends. The case sparked nationwide outrage. In one of her final tweets, Reeva responded to Anene Boyson's death. I woke up in a happy, safe home this morning. Not everyone did. Speak out against the rape of individuals. When the news broke of Reeva's killing, South Africa split among familiar lines. For some, Oscar's story sounded tragically plausible. For many others, it sounded like something else entirely. And it was within that deeply divided context, fear of crime on one side, endemic violence against women on the other, that the case would be judged. We'll be back after a break.
Police statements in the days after the shooting helped to shape and in some ways distort the public narrative. At the close of an early press conference, a police spokesperson dropped a tantalizing detail. She said that officers had previously been called to Oscar's home. When pressed, she declined to elaborate, saying only that the calls involved allegations of a domestic nature. The implication was obvious. Many people came away believing that police had responded to earlier incidents of fighting or abuse between Oscar and Reeva, but that wasn't true. The only prior incident that police were referring to was the 2009 case that we talked about in part 1, in which a woman accused Oscar of assault at a party years before he had even met Reeva. Whatever one believes about that incident, it was a far cry from what the police statement suggested. In hindsight, it appeared less like clarification and more like implication, language that subtly encouraged the public to draw its own conclusions. Police also announced that they had discovered steroids and testosterone in Oscar's bedroom, along with needles. The suggestion was unmistakable: a volatile athlete, possibly fueled by drugs, overcome by rage. But that claim, too, would later unravel. Under oath, the detective responsible admitted that what had been found was not steroids or testosterone at all, but a legal, over-the-counter herbal supplement. The initial statement had been wrong, but by then, the damage was done. As the days passed, public opinion increasingly turned against Pistorius, especially as previously suppressed stories, like the restaurant shooting, began to surface. Still, he was not without supporters. A former girlfriend, Jenna Edkins, posted publicly, "I would just like to say I have dated Oscar on and off for 5 years. Not once has he ever lifted a finger to me or made me fear for my life." Unlike the O.J. Simpson case in the United States, public reaction in South Africa did not split cleanly along racial lines. Both the accused and the victim were white, removing the most obvious racial dimension. Still, patterns emerged. Many white South Africans appeared more skeptical of Oscar's account, while many black South Africans were more sympathetic. His loss of his mother at age 15 resonated deeply with people who saw that grief as central to who he was. While Oscar's guilt or innocence would ultimately be decided in court, the marketplace rendered its verdict almost immediately. Within 24 hours, advertisers began cutting ties. Billboards featuring Oscar's image were taken down across the country, including a Nike advertisement bearing the unfortunate tagline, "I am the bullet in the chamber."
Yikes.
Before a single witness testified, Oscar Pistorius' public life had already collapsed, and the trial, still weeks away, had begun in the court of public opinion. Oscar's family did him no favors in the weeks following Reeva Steenkamp's death. The day after the shooting, Oscar's father, Henke Pistorius, spoke to the press. Henke, if you remember, had been largely absent from Oscar's life since divorcing Sheila years earlier, but now he stepped into the spotlight. Rather than expressing sympathy for Reeva's family or restraint in the face of an unfolding investigation, Henke placed blame elsewhere. He criticized the ruling African National Congress, the party of Nelson Mandela, arguing that its failure to protect white South Africans from crime had forced people like himself and Oscar to arm themselves. The remarks carried clear racist undertones. They sparked immediate backlash and widespread outrage, and they embarrassed Oscar at a moment when public sympathy was already eroding. Then, just weeks later, another damaging story emerged. It became public that Oscar's older brother, Carl Pistorius, had been involved in a fatal incident 5 years earlier. Carl had struck a motorcycle with his car, killing the woman who was riding it. At the time, authorities had ruled it an accident and dropped the charges, but now, in the wake of Reeva's death, the state reopened the case. Carl was charged with culpable homicide and went on trial at the end of March. Ultimately, the magistrate ruled in his favor, concluding that the death had been accidental, and Carl walked free. But the damage was already done. To many observers, the revelation reinforced a growing narrative that Oscar Pistorius came from a family surrounded by controversy and tragedy. Fair or not, it further darkened the public's view of him as he awaited his own day in court. And by this point, almost every new headline seemed to make his situation worse. Oscar Pistorius spent 5 nights in jail awaiting his bail hearing. During that time, he barely ate and complained of constant headaches. When the hearing began, Oscar's legal team submitted his sworn affidavit, his detailed written account of what he claimed had happened the night that Reeva was killed. Legal observers were struck by how granular the statement was. From a defense perspective, some felt that it revealed too much too early, locking Oscar into a version of events before the state had even fully presented its case. The state's position at the bail hearing quickly began to unravel. The lead detective, Hilton Botha, took the stand, but his testimony did more damage than help. Under cross-examination, Oscar's defense team exposed a series of serious missteps. Botha had mishandled the crime scene, lost track of ammunition found inside the house, and failed to wear protective gear while moving through key areas of the home. He was also confronted over his earlier public claim that testosterone and steroids had been found in Oscar's bedroom, an assertion he was forced to concede was false. What had actually been discovered was a legal herbal supplement. Then came the most damaging revelation of all. It emerged that Botha himself was facing 7 counts of attempted murder. The charges stemmed from an incident 2 years earlier in which he had opened fire on a van carrying multiple passengers. Botha claimed he believed the vehicle was attempting to ram him while fleeing. Although the charges had initially been dropped, they were reinstated around the time of Reeva's death. The optics were disastrous. Shortly after the bail hearing, Botha was removed from the case and forced to resign from the police service. That is just crazy to me that the lead detective in this case was accused of attempted murder of 7 people. There is a lot of speculation that people wanted him removed from the case because the incident had happened 2 years earlier, but people wanted him removed from the case because he wasn't a very good, like he had made mistakes and they were easy to kind of point those out. And so the speculation was that this case was brought back up precisely to get him removed
it sounds like
from
that.
the Pistorius case. But
the Pistorius case is so high profile, you want your best people with no shady backgrounds on it, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of parallels to like the O.J. Simpson case, with Mark Furman and a lot of things coming up from his past.
But, a good defense is always going to find something and point those things out too.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, the magistrate ruled that Oscar Pistorius would be granted bail. He was required to post 1 million rand, roughly $60,000, and surrender his passport and all firearms. He was also barred from returning to his home. Instead, he moved in with his uncle, Arnold Pistorius. When bail was granted, Oscar broke down in tears of relief. Public reaction was swift and furious. Many South Africans saw the decision as a textbook case of rich boys' justice. At that time, an estimated 46,000 people were sitting in jail awaiting trials, many accused of far lesser crimes than the murder charge that Oscar faced. For them, bail was a luxury they would never be offered. And as Oscar Pistorius walked free, the divide between his legal fortunes and public opinion only widened. By most measures, Oscar Pistorius was living in extraordinary comfort as he awaited trial. His uncle Arnold was a wealthy businessman who lived in a sprawling mansion in Waterkloof Ridge, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Pretoria. The property was heavily fortified. A moat surrounded the grounds and armed security guards were stationed there around the clock. Inside, the house featured a private movie theater, a swimming pool, a fully equipped gym, and a full staff on hand to meet any need. Oscar rarely left the estate in the year leading up to his trial. 12 days after Reeva was killed, Oscar held a small memorial service on the grounds of his uncle's home. About 20 people attended, mostly Oscar's family members and a handful of mutual friends who had remained loyal to him. Although the service itself was private, Oscar's public relations firm alerted the media in advance. That decision drew immediate criticism, with many observers concluding the memorial was less about mourning Reeva and more about managing Oscar's image.
So she had a funeral with her friends and family
She
too,
did,
right?
yeah, which I'm sure was attended by far more people than
But Oscar didn't attend the funeral.
No, he did not.
He probably was not invited.
No. Oscar's uncle Arnold also reached out directly to Reeva's mother, June Steenkamp, to ask whether she would be open to speaking with Oscar personally. Her response was unequivocal. "I've got nothing to say to you, and I don't want to hear anything that you've got to say." Arnold apologized and ended the call.
Did Reeva's family know Oscar? They hadn't been together that long. Had they met him and spent time with him?
I don't believe they actually met him until the trial. Inside Arnold's house, Oscar's emotional state deteriorated. Surrounded by luxury, he nonetheless seemed to retreat into himself. Family members later said he regressed emotionally, almost reverting to childhood. He required constant supervision and reassurance, attention largely provided by his aunt, a cousin, and his younger sister, Amy. Those closest to him were deeply concerned about his mental health. There was a persistent fear that Oscar might take his own life. Arnold shared a statistic with the family that roughly 20% of people who killed a loved one, regardless of circumstance, later died by suicide. He urged them to watch Oscar closely, to monitor his moods, and to remind him, again and again, that his life still had purpose. Publicly, Oscar Pistorius was seen as a man living in comfort, insulated from consequences. Privately, those around him feared that they were watching someone come undone.
Do you know, before Reeva's death, did Oscar plan on participating in another Olympics? Not Paralympics, but...
Yeah, the actual Olympic Games. I don't know for sure. I would speculate that yes, he probably was planning on it. He was still, he was 26 years old.
Yeah.
The next Olympics would be in a couple...
A lot of runners don't peak until their 30s. That's true, right?
I think you're right. Yes, I'm sure he probably planned on it, but I don't know for sure. I think we are going to end part 2 here for now, but I do have a few questions for you. We talked about Oscar's fear of crime. Do you think that his fear of crime made sense given South Africa's situation? We also talked about South Africa being, one of the leading countries in terms of violent crime, burglaries,
I think every
break-ins.
resident of South Africa must be fearful of personal crime all the time.
Yeah, although in Oscar's case, he lived in a wealthy neighborhood. They had armed security guards everywhere, bars over the windows, and all of that. So
yeah, we didn't talk about that when you were reading that, but wow, that was a
lot of security.
High security.
Yeah, so it seems like that would, it's hard to put yourself in this situation, but it feels like if you lived in that situation, you would feel as secure as you possibly could. But I think his upbringing and just, living in South Africa probably just raises your level of anxiety.
Well, did he view himself as a target because of his celebrity status?
I think he did a little bit. I think he, one of the things we mentioned is when he would be driving, he would think people were following him. And I think a lot of that was probably due to his celebrity status.
Yeah.
Or when he would go to restaurants, he would be really paranoid. So I'm sure it had something to do with that too.
You probably don't know this, but the neighborhood that he lived in sounds super secure. Were there any incidents of anyone ever, getting in and causing any robberies or...
Yeah. I don't know that. I mean, I would suspect with the amount of security there that the answer is no, but I don't know for sure. We talked about the relationship between Oscar and Reeva. So they had only been going out for 3.5 months before she was killed. We read these text messages, but do you think, I know it's hard, it's impossible to say for sure, but do you think that Reeva would have probably left Oscar at some point in the near term, just based on that text exchange, that she was feeling like he was being kind of controlling, he was being jealous when he shouldn't have been jealous?
She seemed like a very confident woman, and I'd like to think that she would have left.
Yeah, that's what I think too, because she seemed like very, like you said, very confident, very poised, sure of herself. So I would think that's not something she would put up with for long.
Then that's implying that if a woman stays, that she's not confident and poised, and women have a lot of different reasons for staying in relationships, and she was probably a nurturer and a caregiver, and she wanted to protect Oscar and love him and show him that he was worthy of someone's love and he didn't need to be insecure.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we talked about some firearms related incidents that Oscar had previously. The one in the restaurant is the one that stands out. A friend gave him a gun in a restaurant to show him, and it went off in a crowded restaurant, which is terrifying. There were other incidents as well, like the one time Oscar woke up in the night, heard something, came out with his gun, and a friend is, getting a glass of water, So to me, it's pretty clear that he was pretty reckless when it came to guns.
He was 25, 26 at this time.
Yeah, 26.
This is something I think about all the time because we're old. We're old. And you change so much between the time that you're in your 20s. You really make a lot of bad, rash decisions.
Yeah.
Your 30s, you're still a little dumb. By the time you get to your 40s and beyond, I feel like, you learn how to think before responding.
Right.
And when we tell these stories, I think it's really important to remember if Oscar is a young man in his 20s, he has this celebrity status, and he's been through some really hard things, but he still has a sense of entitlement that bad things aren't going to happen to him, and the same rules don't apply to him.
Right.
So I think it's just really important to remember that.
Yeah, I think that's really true, and I think also just in South Africa, there was a culture of carrying guns with you everywhere because of this fear of crime and things like that. So I think just the combination of those things, being a reckless 20-something guy who's dumb and makes dumb decisions, also being in this environment, also his upbringing, all these things combine just to make a really, bad recipe for something bad to happen eventually.
I had a history professor once that talked about young men, and I've never forgotten when he talked about revolutions and wars, and those things a lot of times are started by, young angry men in their 20s. That's the angriest person in the world is, a young man in his 20s.
True. All right, last thing I want to ask you about, pretty much everyone knows something about this case already. It's obviously a famous case, even if you didn't follow it closely. But based on what you've learned through these first two parts of the episode, is there anything that has stood out to you that surprised you that you didn't know about, or that has kind of changed the way you're thinking about this case?
I think you did a good job highlighting the intrinsic fear that Oscar has because of his disability, but also just, being raised in South Africa, there was a certain sense of, vulnerability and fear that he had instilled in him.
Yeah. And I'm trying hard not to make excuses for him or make it sound like I'm making excuses, but I think it really is important to understand the whole context of his upbringing and his disability and the country he lived in.
Something that I can't get beyond, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse before we get to the trial, but if you heard a noise in the middle of the night, you wouldn't we don't have a gun in our home, but you would turn to me and say, honey, did you hear that? Did you hear a sound? You wouldn't just, jump out of bed right away. You would check with me and, you'd put your hand on me or something. You would make sure I was there, what don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that it seems like it was a rash reaction.
Yeah, I think if it happened the way he's saying it happened, I think he just panicked, right? He had a moment of panic, wasn't thinking. But yes, I think I would definitely check to make sure you were there and before I did anything.
Now remind me, he lives in a house in this development. It's not like an apartment.
Yeah, it's a house.
I thought I remember hearing that neighbors recalled them arguing.
We will talk about that in part 3.
Gotcha.
Well, be sure to come back for part 3, where we will talk about the trial and everything that has come after. During one of our breaks in recording, I learned that some of our listeners apparently play a Love, Marry, Kill drinking game.
Yeah, every time I say something stupid, they drink, and they're so intoxicated by the end. Please do not drink and drive if you're playing the Love, Marry, Kill
No,
drinking
don't
game.
do that. Our partner in crime, Lisa, sent us a note, and she said that she had, in her Love, Marry, Kill drinking game, she had to remove the prompt by all accounts because she would be dead if she drank every time we said it.
I think you say that more than I do.
Well,
I don't know.
I was going to ask, what do you think are the things that are most likely to get people really drunk if they're playing the Love, Marry, Kill drinking game?
You mean like a whole phrase?
Could be anything, a phrase.
I think we've talked about this before, and I make fun of you a lot off air when you're like, for sure.
Every time I say for sure, I'm like, oh my God, why did I say that again?
Because you're a Valley girl at heart.
For sure.
I say absolutely a lot. I know.
Yeah.
We
have been told we say horrible a lot, which I know.
We've scaled that back
we
intentionally. We both give one horrible an episode. Sometimes
I can't help myself. I say it.
I mean,
more often.
Right.
It's just not a lot of words that work better than horrible. But,
right. It's a good word. I was recently listening to another podcast, and I noticed that they said the word like a lot.
Oh.
But in that way that you say when you're a
was
young
like,
person.
and then she was like,
right.
And then, yeah.
And it was like hard to listen to. And now that you can go into a script and you can highlight how many times they said it. And I don't know what it was. It was like 432
looking at
times.
the transcript, yeah.
Yeah, which is a horrible disservice to podcasters that exists for a lot of reasons, because I really do feel like some podcasters, you can just copy and paste someone's podcast, put it into a chat bot and say, reproduce another script, which I'm not sure if anyone, I feel like people do that. Not us, but I think other people are doing that. But
it's really a bummer.
Anyway, I went into one of our scripts and to see how many times we said like, and it was a lot.
More than one would have expected.
More than one who hosts the podcast would like, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But there's different, ways to say like.
Yeah.
But I think
like I like you. That's okay to say
that.
I
like you too. But I like you just the way you are. But we do say it more than you would probably think. We try hard not to do the O's and ums and
they come through.
I think I say wow a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know what to say, and it's just
I'm going to start saying full body chills.
Yeah. Oh, that's mean. Don't.
No, I was just thinking about that because which pot that's morbid that they say that.
No,
I
don't feel comfortable calling out other
it's a very,
very popular podcast.
No, it's actually good that they have a thing like that. I feel like we don't really have a,
For the record, I have maybe gotten full body chills once, so I'm not sure what they're doing over there. But yeah, I mean, I get emotional a lot. But
one thing that people might have on their drinking game that I think we don't actually say is talking about someone lighting up a room, because I think that even that is such a cliche that we really actually avoid that as well. I think if you listen to maybe, I don't know, Dateline or other podcasts, you might hear that one a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I do try to avoid that. But Lisa's comment made me laugh. It was very funny, and we are all for making fun of us.
Absolutely.
Self-deprecation.
For sure.
For sure. Absolutely. 100%. So the funniest thing happened the other day, and I didn't get a picture, and I'm so mad because I had my camera at the ready, and you walked out of the room. It was the Bears were playing, and I have a Bears sweatshirt, and you put on my Bears sweatshirt as a little funny joke.
Yep.
And I'm so mad that I don't have proof of that.
Yeah,
so do you want to confirm or deny that you had on a Bears sweatshirt?
I can't confirm or deny it, but what I can say is it will probably never happen again. So you missed your
not even on Super Bowl Sunday when they're playing against.
I don't want to be a pessimist, but I don't think the Bears are going to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I really don't care.
And actually, honestly, I can't talk about football anymore because you said I can't talk about it for 15 seconds.
Well, we haven't signed the contract, the 2026 Love Me. What would you put in your end of the contract?
Well, I also fully concur with you on the no vegetables clause for the snacks. So we're on the same page on that one. No problem there. I would like a shoulder and neck massage before and after each recording
Keith
session.
Keith is standing right behind you, so maybe Keith Morrison
Keith is made of cardboard. He is unable to do that. So that would really help, get rid of the tension in my neck and shoulders. Yeah, well, sitting in these chairs for a long time.
Well, I really didn't expect you to come with any demands, so I'm not.
I need to work on my demands.
Right.
Well, thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. If you'd like to listen to part 3 of this episode now, join us on patreon.com/lovemarrykill. We have one tier, $5 a month, and you get early access to multi-part episodes along with a monthly bonus episode.
Please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Find us on social media or send us an email at lovemarrykill@gmail.com. And also look for us on YouTube, the little channel that could.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Don't kill your wife.
And don't kill your husband.